Happy Halloween. It's been a while. My name is Dakota, and welcome to the Horror Nights Gauntlet Special Report. This is something I wanted to do for a while. Last season, I didn't really get to do as many, Horror Nights announcement reactions. Mostly because it just takes me an ungodly amount of time to edit with my life and everything else going on. This is a new series I'm doing. I'm here by myself. There is no Lauren. There is no TN. But I just kind of wanted an excuse to talk about Halloween Horror Nights announcements. Usually I just take 10,000 years to edit the show. If you watch it regularly, you know that. Because there is nothing is regular about this show. But I wanted... So rather than tacking on announcements onto the already very long show as it exists currently, I figured I can actually post more frequently and just put these little tiny baby episodes that aren't super duper long where we just talk about the announcement, nothing else. So welcome to the very first Horror Nights Gauntlet special report. Today we had an announcement. We're going to get into that. I might as well update you on what's been going on. I know I've been missing for 100 years. So we'll get into that after we talk about the announcement. I'm not going to bog you down with that. And then just some future stuff for the channel. So let's get into it. So today, technically I guess it leaked like a week ago. And really it leaked, honestly, in January. But I don't know. It was on the spec map March. I'm here alone today if you can't tell. So today, Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Orlando announced for both coasts Halloween Horror Nights events, Universal Monsters, Legends Collide. So there were kind of two descriptions that were released. The main one that you would find on the website, which, by the way, the Horror Nights classic HalloweenHorrorNights.com website is gone. It is apparently a thing of the past. Not that it hasn't been limping to its death for the past 10 years, but Jesus, end of an era, really sad. If you thought one Universal monster was scary, how about 3? Better summon your Scream Squad, cause you're about to get caught in the middle of an epic battle between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy, together for the first time ever. Their mission? To find the amulet that will break their curse, and they'll destroy anyone who gets in their way. And that was the first of the two descriptions. There was another one. It's a little longer. I don't know if this is from a press release that maybe only went to certain websites. Inside Universal had it. I saw it on a few other posts. This one's a little longer, but we'll read it. Dracula, Wolfman, and the Mummy will come together as Universal transports guests to the 19th century with a trio of monsters seeking one thing, the Amulet of Ra. The Wolfman believes this ancient relic contains the power to finally lift his dreaded curse, while Dracula and the Mummy have nefarious plans to use it to bring humankind to its knees. With the full moon on the rise and a race against time, guests will find themselves entangled in a bloodthirsty battle between the terrifying titans, and only one will survive. There was also a commercial, which I'm not going to play, but we can just talk about it, and I don't know, it'll be on in the background, I guess. First of all, I loved it. I have a lot of thoughts about this concept, but as far as the commercial goes, it was giving Rip from the Silver Scream. I know a lot of fans are speculating, oh my god, the Usher's back, the Usher. I'm gonna say hold your horses on that. I'm not feeling super confident, but maybe. I'd love that. It certainly is the Palace Theater that is the arcade at Universal Florida. That Crash McCreary art is back, both for the poster and for the commercial, with these sick little movie posters, I guess. Yeah, classic movie posters. Love the way each of the characters just kind of bursts through those. It just really feels like it could be a sequel to the Rip from the Silver Scream ad. And the fact that this is just a house announcement, I really love that. I know a lot of people got really hung up on the fact that it's not clear if this is called The Snacker and it is a short film, or if this guy is the snacker. But a lot of people are speculating, and I think it's a fair speculation, that more of the announcements this season will include little short film titles that maybe indicate what this victim is. And a lot of people are oh, this feels just like the Usher, and it does? I don't know. That would be really cool. Obviously, I am very fond of the Usher. So beyond just the announcement, the ad, which is really cool, there was also a poster. We did get a new piece of art for the Mummy. It does appear with this like Amulet of Ra story that like the whole house is going to kind of star the mummy, and you can like, if you look at the logo for like Legends Collide, you can see like hieroglyphics and the word legends, and of course like the whole frame like surrounding the portrait of the monsters is like covered in hieroglyphics. So it would appear that like this is a very mummy centric story that the Wolfman and Dracula both happen to feature in. But today also John Murdy did a Q&A, and Justin from HHN Mannix on Twitter did a really good job just kind of like piecing together all of the most important bits. And some of the takeaways were that Hollywood had been planning a Dracula versus Mummy house. Florida had been planning, I guess, a Wolfman versus Mummy house. And they both were like, oh, well, what if we did like The Bride of Frankenstein the year before, where one coast kind of had like the first half of the story and the other coast had the other. So it sounds like they're doing that again. And I really like that. I like that they collaborated on like bringing together these two potentially disparate, like separate ideas into like a singular experience. So I think that's cool. I will say I was initially like concerned that there was going to be like not enough of each character, or that it was going to just kind of feel like the 2019 Monster House, like now we're in the Wolfman scene, now we're in the Mummy scene, now we're in the Dracula scene. So like it just would have been like basically the same house we already got, but with less monsters. And that I wouldn't have been into, but I do appreciate John Murdy mentioned that there are equal scenes and appearances between the three characters, and it's not like you're just going from one to the other. Like they are constantly interacting and like telling a singular narrative, which that's what I wanted. And I feel like Bride of Frankenstein Lives set the bar so high for what I expect from storytelling. I think like using vampire blood to resurrect Frankenstein is like such a smart way to bring these characters together. So I don't know how I feel necessarily about this like MacGuffin driven like story with a amulet, but it could be really cool. I do appreciate that it sounds like the Wolfman is kind of like the hero of the story, and that Dracula and the Mummy are both like evil, which I appreciate that, because that is very in character for the three. Dracula and the Mummy would be more nefarious, and the Wolfman would want to break his curse. So I like that. I think there's like some like clever storytelling going on here, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. I would say the Mummy is, if not my favorite monster, my favorite monster is probably Gilman, but like the Mummy was my first Halloween Horror Nights. Like 1999 Emotep, that was my first Horror Nights. I was a little ass kid. I was like in second grade, the summer between first and second grade. The Mummy came out, like the Brendan Fraser movie. I was obsessed with that. Like I basically begged to go to the event for the Mummy. And the Mummy came back in 2001. I did not go that year. And then the Mummy has not starred in a haunted house since 2001. And Wolfman and Dracula were both had starring houses in 2009. Dracula had Dracula Untold back in like 2014. They both gotten to make a lot of appearances. Other than Tomb of the Ancients, we really haven't seen Egypt and like Egyptian tombs like depicted at Horror Nights hardly ever. So I'm hyped as fuck for anything mummies, anything Egypt. If they can deliver just like obviously the Mummy scene in the Monster House I just really liked. I love that like light up cartouche. I don't know what you call that. I loved that. There was a similar scene in Tomb of the Ancients with like the bird mask people and like the light up thing. I don't know. I'm really hoping for like that kind of energy with this like cursed amulet with Egypt. I don't know. I'm really like vibing with this concept. My only concern really is that this might be like a little too, I don't know. I guess I was more excited about the potential of a Mummy house than Dracula and the Wolfman necessarily. I'm still excited. I'm still hyped. I learned my lesson. I do not have to drive all the way to Orlando at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, I ordered the shirt. No more Nightmare Horror Nights for me. Something else I appreciated from the John Murdy Q&A was that he mentioned that the Hollywood maze is set entirely in London. And it sounds like that is the part 2 half of the story, and that Orlando is the part 1 half of the story, which, I mean, he said this is part 2 of the story. So I hope that means that the Orlando house is predominantly set in Egypt. Because I will be real, a mummy house set in London sounds really disappointing. It sounds very like Tom Cruise Mummy. On top of the 2 parks, 2 halves of the story thing, I do kind of, I don't know, like it's both a pro and a con. Like, kind of sucks for anybody who doesn't get to do both coasts, but I guess if you don't know, you don't know. And then at the same time, like the Bride of Frankenstein house is both kind of, the Hollywood one focused more on everything leading up to the castle, but it's still, they both start in the same place and end in the same place. Just Hollywood focused more on the pre-torture of the Dracula brides, and Orlando kind of focuses on everything once she starts taking them apart. I guess I'm trying to wonder like how this house deals with that, like same style of like narrative division, and like is that going to piss people off that they didn't see half of it, or are you going to have like a fulfilling experience on both coasts? These are the questions. These are what we want to know. These are what I want to know. The rest of you, I don't know if you even give a fuck. One of the last points it mentioned was the only one will survive. So I'm going to assume this is a Freddy versus Jason icons kind of thing, where at the end of each cast change, you know, there's a winner at the end of the house. I suspect all of that social media drama on Twitter last year between people fucking fighting over who would get to close out houses and like trying to see all of the icons and shit like that, I imagine that is a driving force behind this. So have fun with that. But this, you know, if this really, like, if this knocks it out of the park, it begs the question, why are the theme parks getting monsters right when the movie studio can't? And like, I don't know, maybe Universal Studios, the production company, if you could just like look at what's going on in your theme park division, there's some really great shit happening with monsters right now. Anyway, at this point, I don't really know what else there is to say. These, like I said, these are going to be short episodes, just kind of like wanting to talk about the new announcement. I know I didn't make any posts for the event and the dates officially getting announced and tickets going on sale. I that's not news to me. Like I know a ton of other people report on it. I don't really give a fuck. That's not what I made this channel to do. Yeah, we'll be back in hopefully a couple of weeks with another one of these. Maybe it'll just be like, you know, 4 months and they'll just dump all of them on us in August again. So who knows what to expect anymore. It is late as hell. It is the day of the announcement. So I'm exhausted. It is like 1:22 in the morning and I'm recording this alone. But yeah, I'm really hyped for Legends Collide. I think the name is a little silly, but I'm hyped as fuck. Normally this is going to be where like I would just kind of end these little things, but I did promise that I would kind of explain where I've been. So in February, I posted part 1 of the Halloween Horror Nights 30 review, and then I went on vacation and got sick as fuck and did not post part 2. And really I got sick as hell, and then I immediately, when I was better, was starting a course, like a class, to get a license that I need for my job. And that has just kind of taken over my whole life. So I just really, it's not that I forgot about the show. It actually stresses me out every day constantly and makes me really sad. So I really would love to be putting it out as soon as possible. It's almost done. It's like half done. It's not almost done. It should be out soon. And, you know, with that, you know, we can kind of get a move on with like what else I have planned for the channel. Anyway, so I just wanted to like thank you guys for your patience. I know like I do not post regularly on this show. I try to feed you guys as much as I can though when I can. So as a thank you for your patience, I did want to get this episode out, but I also wanted to just kind of fill you in on where the show is going, what's going on with the channel. So when I created Cathode Coaster, the channel, the name, you know, was meant to represent like 2 things I really love, which is film and theme parks. And so I always planned to have more content that was like reflective of that. It's just kind of like the Horror Nights Gauntlet is really the only project I've continued to put out, so it feels like that's the only thing I do. But I do want to put out more content for the channel, so I basically made like a Kevin Feige fucking presentation of where Cathode Coaster is going this year. So first and foremost, part 2 of the Halloween Horror Nights 30 review is on its way, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I thank you guys again for waiting so long. This was originally going to be a 3-part review. I have squeezed all of part 2 and all of part 3 into part 2, so I'm not going to drag this out any fucking longer. It's just going to be a long episode, and just it is what it is. But that should be out really soon. After that, though, there is a bunch more shit. So coming after, like, I literally, like, maybe a week or 2 after, will be the continuation of classic Halloween Horror Nights Gauntlet, ranking and reviewing now 152 haunted houses, which, you know, of course, is always just really an excuse to just talk about Halloween Horror Nights. It doesn't really matter what the ranking is. But I've had a lot of people, like, ask me on Twitter, like, hey, what's going on with that? And it's like, well, I want to get the review out for 30. Anyway, this is coming soon, so the Horror Nights Gauntlet Season 2 premiere will start basically the episode after the Horror Nights 30 review. Coming after that, though, is something I've really been planning for a while, and when I envisioned the channel, I always thought there would be like 2 Horror Nights Gauntlet shows, one for houses and one for scare zones, and that is the Horror Nights Gauntlet Street Wars. And I've already worked out the whole list. It's ready to go. We just have to fucking shoot it. And yeah, that'll just be the same, literally the exact same style as regular Horror Nights Gauntlet. 5 scare zones a week, like, per episode. These won't be as frequent as the haunted house episodes. I mean, not that those are frequent right now either, but you know, these won't be as frequent because there's not as many. I had to do like a lot of finagling to get like unofficial scare zones in, just to give it more content to beef it out. But I think it's fun. It's just more excuses to talk about Halloween Horror Nights. And the other really like 50% of what the event is, which is the scare zones. They're really important. Moving on, another show. This is filmed. I'm holding on to it, I guess. But we have a new show that I've not really knew. I've kind of always envisioned this as part of the channel. This is the first thing that is not related to Halloween Horror Nights, and that is Cathode Creatures, which is, I guess for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, you might not know that I make custom action figures and dolls and do like art and like 3-dimensional like sculpting and things like that. So it's an art show. It's me making things. It's pretty low key. It's like it doesn't have nearly the amount of like it's not like a jokey thing. I don't know. Jeez, I'm really underselling this. It's fun. If you enjoy watching people like make custom action figures or repaint dolls, if that, like, I don't know, if that gives you like ASMR or whatever, like that's very the vibe of this. And of course, because everything is Halloween Horror Nights, the first episode is I am making 2 custom Halloween Horror Nights action figures, so that'll start as soon as the first episode of Street Wars is out. But we're not done. There is another show. I've been teasing this for about 100 years, that Tien Gagnon from Frightful Failures and I were going to do a quote-unquote design challenge episode of the Horror Nights Gauntlet. That kind of evolved into its own thing, and it's kind of turned into its own show. So that is called Parks and Creation. And the idea is that every episode will be me and a guest, and we kind of basically just armchair Imagineer. You know, if, for those of you who don't know that term, it's basically fan fiction for theme park attractions, right? Like you just create your own attraction. And so for this, you know, the context might be writing a treatment, or like doing, I don't know, Planet Coaster if you're into that kind of thing, or just like that sort of content. Maybe we're creating a ride. Maybe we're just talking, like hashing out like an imaginary land for a park, or haunted houses, scare zones, like really whatever the context of like the discussion between me and my guest will be. And for series 1, my guest is Tien Guignol from the Frightful Failures podcast, and we are doing Icons Resurrected, where we have each taken 5 of the Halloween Horror Nights icons, and this is such a massive undertaking. We've written treatments for haunted houses for each one of these characters with art. All of this is done. We literally just have to get together and film it because all of the hard part is done. So much art and writing and time went into this. It's really ridiculous. I'm really excited to get it out. It's gonna be a whole day of shooting to put this together. So we just kind of had to make our schedules work, and life has been crazy. But this is definitely coming at some point this year. I don't know exactly when, but I'm really excited for it. So that is Parks and Creation Series 1, Icons Resurrected. And of course, we're going to have more of the Horror Nights Gauntlet special reports. Sometimes these will be short little episodes like today. Sometimes, if I have an episode ready to go, I might just tack it onto the beginning of like a standard episode of the Horror Nights Gauntlet or something. But the goal is to, with these, at least be interacting with you guys more frequently, because with my schedule and how long episodes of the show tend to be, it just takes me a very long time to edit. I do all of this on my own. I literally, the only help I get is when Lauren or somebody like is in the room pushing the record button on my camera for me. Like, I do all of this by myself. I just want to thank you guys again for your patience with my show and with how long I take to do everything. More content is on the way. I'm rambling. We should end this here. Thank you guys so much. Let me know, are you team Mummy? Are you team Wolfman? Are you team Dracula? Does Dracula owe you money? Do you owe Hunter money for using his catchphrase all the time? I know I didn't cover the spec map. Is that something you guys want to hear me talk about? I always feel conflicted about that kind of thing. I don't know. Let me know down below. Otherwise, my name is Dakota. You can find me at Cathode Coaster. On Twitter is probably where I'm the most active, but there is an Instagram account for Cathode Coaster. There's also an Instagram account for the Horror Nights Gauntlet show. I'm not really active on either of those. That's really just, if you want to talk, comment here or comment on Twitter. But thank you guys so much for tuning in once again to the Horror Nights Gauntlet, only on Cathode Coaster.